All right, folks, coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered for Thursday, January 10th, 2019, the federal government shutdown enters its 20th day, and federal workers were pissed off, marching from the AFL-CIO headquarters to the White House, demanding an end to the shutdown. They were joined by several members of Congress. We will hear from those workers as well as those members of Congress on today's show. The deconstruction of white supremacist Congressman Steve King of Iowa will commence in about 3 damn minutes. Of course, he had an interview with the New York Times where he said, hey, what's wrong with the term white supremacist? I'm going to let your ass know on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Trust me, y'all don't want to miss this. The African-American man found dead at the home of a major Democratic donor in L.A. has been identified. It's the second time a black man has died in 18 months at the home of Ed Buck. And all of a sudden, folks in L.A. who are white and gay are finally speaking up. And even national media is paying attention. Where in the hell have y'all been? WFAA's TV, Dale Hansen, delivered a strong, stinging commentary on racism in the NFL, saying it's white privilege the reason Cliff Kingsbury has gotten a job in Arizona as the head coach. Yet brothers can't seem to get any jobs this year. We'll talk with Dale Hansen right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Also, the Political Action Committee, Democracy for America, which was born out of the Howard Dean campaign, gets a new leader. She's a sister, and she's black. That's right. My conversation with Yvette Simpson on the show. And it's going to be a post office named after a brother who was lynched. And he was a postmaster. We'll tell you who he is. And Alpha Kappa Alpha being sued by a mother who says hazing caused her daughter to commit suicide. And our series continues profiling HBCU professors. We'll talk with a professor at Virginia State University who's focused on urban agriculture. That's right, trying to get y'all to farm in the hood. Calm the hell down. We'll explain. It's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact.
All right, folks, so the partial government shutdown enters its 20th day today. Tomorrow's going to be day 21, which will match the longest shutdown in American history. 800,000 federal workers are either furloughed and at home are working without pay. Well, a bunch of them today went to the AFL-CIO headquarters, which is right across the street from Congress. And so, guess what? They were there protesting, saying, we want to go back to work. So I decided to drop on by and shoot some video and talk to some folks there. Of course, now while they were doing that, you still had folks on Capitol Hill who were arguing back and forth. Now you got Republicans who want to call for a national emergency on the wall. You got Donald Trump saying, I'm not going to sign anything unless we deal with this whole issue. And this is some of the video shot earlier of the protesters. And so there were folks out there who were black, who were brown, who were white, working with all kinds of different federal agencies. You have folks out there who are air traffic controllers who are working for free. Individuals who say, look, we got to pay house notes, we got car notes, you name it. We got all of that. And so I had the opportunity to, and also TSA inspectors also will be quitting left and right as a result of what's going on, which will mean we're going to have long lines as well. Also, those protecting food safety in America. Also, that has stopped as a result. It is clear Donald Trump doesn't give a damn about these federal workers. He's totally focused on his wall. You know, he was down in the southern border today with that fake media stunt down there, sitting here trying to draw attention to it. First of all, let's talk with the members of Congress. I talked with them outside of the White House at the rally. And here's Houston Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee.
Voting one bill after another.
I know that.
And if he calls for the emergency order, we'll open the government and we'll just have to sue him on the order. But we want people to be paid. We want to be paid now. So I was just on the floor managing the ag bill to open up ag. And we're going one by one for all these federal workers. Because tomorrow we know that they will never change. We are sending members home to tell our TSO officers, thank them and our air traffic controllers, because they have the security of the nation, the real security of the nation in their hands. So I just want to thank you very, very much. I ran down here so that I could do it in between votes to say that we are with you. I'll let the folk know that you are here and we are you. We are working for access to credit unions, to access to government workers, as you well know, the letters, and I made myself available to any of my government workers. I will call utilities, mortgage mortgage anybody personally, but we want to open the government now. I love you, dear.
I love you so much. Thank you, Congresswoman. Thank you. We're going to tell him. We want it open now. He's going to see us over and over again.
There is no excuse. We have all the bills. They are bipartisan bills. We put them on the floor. But let me say this. Leader McConnell
has got to do his job.
He does not understand the Article 1 is the House and the Senate. It is the United States Congress in the Constitution. Article 2 is the executive. None of them can tell the other one what to do. The judiciary is the third. We have to do our work, and then the president has to do his work. But the president doesn't tell the Congress what to do.
First of all, they call us congressmen and women, but we're representatives. This is a representative government, and these are the people that we're accountable to. We're responsible for their livelihoods, for the safety and the health of their communities and their families. And the current occupant of this White House is threatening all of that. Yesterday I met with air traffic controllers, TSA workers that are bringing their kids to work because they can't afford child care. I just spoke with someone there who's been working for the EPA for 32 years in the enforcement office, and that work is not being done, putting Americans at risk. So I'm happy to be here in solidarity. I wish I didn't have to be, that we have to fight for basic respect, no work, you know, no work, no peace, no pay, no peace. And I'll be here until this is over.
Because federal workers provide essential services that every one of us as Americans depend on, from the TSA to Veterans Affairs, Treasury workers. People may not get their IRS refund checks this year because people aren't working right now answering the phones at the IRS. So this affects everybody. It's why we're demanding that the President and Senator McConnell pass the House-approved bill so that we can put people back to work with pay.
All right, folks, and of course, those government workers were not happy at all, and here's some of them.
I'm accountant with EPA.
Why was it important for you to be out here today?
It was very important for me to be out here because all us that's in the unions are affected by the government shutdown. Tomorrow we won't be getting a paycheck. We have bills to pay. We have a person that's in the White House that do not care about the average American. He's shown that, he's proven that, and today is a prime example of, based on how he responds in the White House and how he managed the government. It's a prime example of what we have today. Shut down, people out of work for nonsense.
I would tell Trump that he need to do his job, which he actually didn't really get in. He stole his way in the White House. And he needs to open the federal government back up. And Mitch McConnell needs to put the bills on the floor so the Republicans can vote for the federal government to open back up. Because some of the Republicans want the federal government to open back up. But Mitch McConnell won't put the bill on the floor to open it, to come to a vote. Mitch McConnell won't do it. So he need to do his job what he got elected for.
Which department you work for?
I work for United States Census Bureau.
All right, then. Yo, what happened to the other federal worker? Wait, one more on there. I can't believe that. So it was another brother who I talked to. We played the video earlier, had this sign out there. This brother's a 9-year-old son, and he said he had to explain to his son how their life was about to change and what was a trip. We also had the video earlier. He had a sign, had all of his bills. Had all of his bills in terms of what his mortgage was, his car, his food, and everything, and saying, look, beginning today, he can't feed his family. He said that this is how it's going to be affected, and how he has to explain. So that's the sign right there. So I don't know what happened to the interview. I talked to the brother, but yeah, so that's the sign there of his various bills, and so yeah, we should. So between now. Get the interview so I can go and play. I got to get the brother some air time. All right, let's go, y'all. Joining us right now is Deron Cloud, who is organizing food banks for unpaid workers. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
So this is also, there's a story of Loudoun County. They're also considering passing an emergency measure to increase funding to food banks to pay for to help folks with federal workers. And there are people out there who are being asses about federal workers, folks like Donald Trump, who are like, okay, you know, y'all can do whatever. Even they're telling the people of the Coast Guard, oh, have a garage sale. I mean, just the absolute arrogance and the dismissive attitude towards federal workers. As Nancy Pelosi said, it's not like they can be like Donald Trump, go ask daddy for a loan or ask daddy for some money. These are people who literally live paycheck to paycheck.
It insulted my conscience. I looked at it and I couldn't believe when you talked about that Coast Guard thing. And I felt, because I'm a playwright, I felt like, I said, I feel like I'm looking at something scripted. I'm looking at something that's just been written to be funny, because I can't believe they're saying this to people who have to pay bills. And that sign you just showed, I mean, that sign says it all. I mean, I get goosebumps because this is what people are facing. And as for me, that's why I said we have to do something about it.
And again, what I hope folks understand, and one of the reasons why I talk to some of the workers out there, is because there's somehow this belief that, oh, no, they'll be all right. Okay, but if you're watching at home right now, imagine you going to work. Imagine you going to work and putting the work in, but you're not getting paid for it. And then there's a possibility that if they, first of all, we don't know how long it's going to last. You've got Lindsey Graham now telling Donald Trump to declare a national emergency to fund this wall. He's saying, I'm not going to do it. He's definitely afraid of people on the right, them criticizing him. And so he might be so spiteful where he'll say, and he's already said it, I'll let it go on for years. I don't care.
Right. Well, you know, that's one of the reasons I do the feeding, because as a pastor, I'm on the front line. And on the front line, I started doing, we're doing an event this weekend, and on the front line, I literally had a sister working on this and then found out she was furloughed. Mm-hmm. And so she said, this is keeping me from being afraid because I don't have anything to do, and I'm only going to be able to make it one more week. And I realized this is impacting so many people psychologically as well, because they've done all the right things. And then if you play by the rules and then you're getting screwed, it just hurts everyone.
I'm going to bring my panel here. C.J. Jordan, Senior Vice President, Government Affairs, Steptoe Group. We also have Cleo Monago, Social Political Analyst and Activist, as well as Dr. Greg Carr, Department of Afro-American Studies at Howard University. And again, if you're watching mainstream media, they're having a process conversation. They're having a piss and match conversation. But when we talk, and then they go, okay, federal workers, not getting checks. But the reality is, these are human beings with families, with children, husband, wives, girlfriends, boyfriends, significant others, single, married, I don't care what it is. And when you talk about how we all shop, most folks don't go shop and then you got enough food to last you 2 months. You're buying food on a week by week or 2 weeks at most. And so if you're all of a sudden now talking about, I can't even feed my family, that is a fundamental issue for 800,000 people.
Brother, when you show that sign, $1,100 for child care.
Did you see that?
$600 for insurance. That conversation with that 9-year-old son is involving your health. Man, and we're talking domestically. Let's talk internationally. I've got friends, and we all have friends, probably y'all know, in the State Department who have been assigned to embassies in Africa. I'm running errands now for people who are, they're furloughed in Nigeria, in South Africa, and these are working class black folk. It ain't just black, it's brown, it's white.
That's the other piece. People don't understand when you say federal workers, not just those in the U.S., those who are living abroad.
That's exactly right. Voice of America, I did an interview today on Martin Luther King, for something from Martin Luther King. The sister is from Senegal. They've been furloughed. They're working, and she said she's got a family. And we're sitting there in the interview, and she's sitting there like, I don't know what I'm going to do. These are working class people, Roland.
CJ?
I think, look, the president is compassionate. He understands the
I'm sorry, hold up. Which president?
President Trump. And he understands the gravity of this. But he's also dealing with the fact that last month, 32,000 individuals came across our border illegally. And that is also have to be dealt with. Now, the president...
CJ,
the president did give some numbers to Nancy Pelosi and said, we want to work with this number. I'll come down and let's deal with DACA.
Hold on, let's back up here. If I recall, let me just let me just make sure, let's see if this timeline is correct. If I recall, the United States Senate passed a bill to fund the federal government. It passed 100-0. They had the assurances of Vice President Mike Pence that Trump was going to sign it. Yes or no?
No, that is absolutely
okay,
correct.
so the Senate passed it. It then went to the House, right?
That is absolutely correct.
But while it was going to the House, Ann Coulter and Fox News lost their minds and said, oh my God, what is he doing? He shouldn't do this. He then, on a Thursday, goes, okay, I'm not going to do it. Sorry, Paul Ryan, I'm not going to sign this. So then Republicans in the House then passed a bill that had border funding. Yes or no?
That is correct.
And then Mitch McConnell said, the hell with this, we going home. We already passed the bill. So the person, and tell me if I'm correct or not, I want to make sure my memory is correct. Was there not a meeting in the Oval Office where Trump, the man you just said is compassionate,
he is compassionate,
told Senator Chuck Schumer and Representative Nancy Pelosi, y'all don't worry about it. I'm going to own this shutdown. Did that happen?
That was his words out of his mouth.
So who lied?
I don't think anybody lied.
No, hold up.
No.
Did Vice President Mike Pence say to Republicans and Democrats, hey, y'all go ahead and pass the funding bill. He's going to sign it.
At the end,
did that happen?
That happened.
So who lied?
He didn't lie.
But how did he didn't lie? Because if he told them he's going to sign it, but then the next day he sends a tweet out and changes his mind, how is he compassionate? How is he also compassionate?
He's very compassionate, and he has a prerogative as the commander-in-chief to change his mind.
But hold up. How is he compassionate when this man literally like, hey, you know what? Y'all got to deal with it.
He campaigned on it.
But how?
And
he campaigned on what?
Mexico paying for the wall.
On border security.
No. He said, he told us.
Security.
I'm just checking lies right now.
Go ahead, brother.
He told us. Mexico paying for this wall.
And he has a prerogative to
change
change his mind.
Mexico paid for this wall?
No, Mexico hasn't paid.
So hold up. So who didn't lie?
He didn't lie.
How's he didn't lie?
No, it's
because if he said Mexico paying for the wall.
At the end of the day, what the president also said that
propaganda.
in the bill dealing with NAFTA, he would also have Mexico come
I'm sorry, hold up. Has that particular, first of all, NAFTA no longer exists because he got rid of it. But the new one.
But the new one.
Hold up.
Hasn't been completely signed.
Oh, stop right there. So how can you say he's going to get funding out of something that has not been signed yet?
And that's because Nancy Pelosi.
Hold up. But wait a minute.
Hold on,
let
me finish.
Didn't that deal get signed a few months ago?
It got signed, but waiting on
Who was in control of the House a few months ago?
Congress. Republican
Who was in
Congress.
control of the Senate a few months ago?
Republicans.
So what the hell were y'all doing?
We was working. We're not propaganda. At the end of the day, when the president looked at and his advisors looked and found out that, wait a minute, the bill that the president had promised to sign that was passed by a Republican Congress did not have border wall funding.
Hold up. What? But who was in control of the Senate?
But it did.
Hold up. Who was in control of the Senate?
It did not have funding
CJ,
for the wall.
who was in control of the Senate?
We were.
Who's we?
Republicans.
And did y'all vote for the funding bill?
They voted, but the funding for the wall was not in it.
But hold up. He didn't ask for the funding for the wall.
Yes,
and Vice President Mike Pence said, it's fine, y'all can go ahead and pass it.
Bro, they didn't spend the money that they got for the funding for last year.
The
only answer to any of this is simple.
No.
It's very simple. It's propaganda.
CJ,
It's not propaganda. Since 1986, we've been waiting for funding for the wall.
Propaganda. Go ahead.
He's compassionate.
Well, see, from my perspective, frankly, I was kind of surprised to hear the term compassionate coming from Trump. But what's missing so far from my perspective from this conversation is priorities, white power and control priorities, Trump, for lack of a better term. All this stuff y'all talking about, there is not what. Also, the people like Trump who are in charge of these decisions don't have the same class challenges that these people have. They can't fathom them. As a matter of fact, in most cases, they look down on them. Like, you poor people can't even eat. You're not even that valuable. But what's interesting about...
But even though the white farmers in Iowa, who he screwed with the tariffs, can't get their checks.
Right. But we're going back to priorities again because were white farmers there today?
No, federal workers.
Oh, exactly. But even though the white farmers were not there today, the white farmers are affected based on what you said.
Precisely.
But the white farmers, no matter how psychotic it looks to us, if we don't have their priorities, they're on the side of the white power and control agenda.
Oh, yes.
Which is why they're on the side of the wall. They don't care if they're starving to death and lose the rest of their teeth. They want to stay in control, and they want white people to be in control.
That has nothing to do
and those
about
poor
control
people
white
are going
folks.
through. Oh, yes, it does.
But
this whole wall thing is an irrational white supremacist reaction
It is
to
not
controlling
irrational.
the border. Well, no, there's some things. Well, that's a whole other
But
topic.
I'm trying to understand, CJ. If more people are here illegally because they've overstayed with visas, and if more drugs actually come in through points of entry, in fact, today we had all these guns that were laid out that came through points of entry, not across the border, the wall-less border,
No.
through the ports of entry.
Airports.
It's like
Fentanyl coming through
so
Canada.
he's lying.
He's lying.
No, he's not lying.
It's not coming through airports?
No, I'm not saying that
Well, no,
those
but
guns are not
but
coming.
he's saying it's not. Are
No,
you saying
got
it is?
guns and drugs coming across the border.
No,
you still
come
have
on
some.
now.
Okay, actually, let me help you out. Guns
And the
and drugs
drugs
ain't
ain't
coming across the border, actually coming
Yes, they-
under the border.
Well, through the
tunnels,
And
which a
again,
wall ain't stopping because the wall's
Depending
not
on-
going to drill down
depending on how far
100
they
feet
go.
deep.
The worst drugs are coming in through airports. They can't be checked. They're coming
Okay.
from China. They're
And I
coming
guess what I
They're
don't
coming from China,
understand.
they're
I don't
coming from
understand.
Nigeria.
Go ahead,
But
Doc.
at
Go
the
ahead.
end of the day, we're dealing with a population movement, and that is a crisis.
Right,
and
right. And 800,000 people
and
who
so-
Americans can't feed their
and
family.
At the end of the day,
Brother, go
the
ahead.
president wants a wall, and he campaigned on it.
I'm CJ. I'm still stuck on. Roland asked you 6 to 7 factual questions, and you had to give an answer. And I need to understand, and this is wonderful for me to be here. How do you say compassionate when that man got to tell his 9-year-old things is about to change? Where the hell is compassion?
There is compassion.
Where?
There is compassion. I understand it's a very difficult choice.
No, please name compassion.
I am saying again.
What is compassion?
Compassion is, at the end of the day, keeping a promise that he campaigned on. I understand that it's
That-
a
oh, so
very...
that-
Well,
that
hold
has
on.
nothing to
Let
do
me
with
finish.
compassion.
Let me
Okay, that has
finish.
nothing to do with
I
compassion.
understand that he made a very tough decision as leadership, because in leadership, you make tough decisions. And that tough decision that he made is the fact that at the end of the day, he wants the funding for the wall and come to table on DACA.
But you're talking about follow through. This
This is classical cognitive dissonance
It's
propaganda.
It's propaganda.
Because I'm
propaganda.
sitting next to
That's
you
all
and
it
I'm
is.
saying to you,
It's not
when you say
propaganda.
Sure it is.
compassion, and you see that man put that sign out there, and that man says, I'm going to finish what I'm saying. I cannot pay my rent, my insurance, my child care is $1,100, $600, and this president says, you know what, put this on me?
He understands that. And the bottom line is, he understands when you're in leadership, you're going to make very
Sister,
tough
you've
decisions.
fallen into the miseducation.
I'm not miseducated
Yes,
at
you
all.
are.
Cleo,
And
make
so,
your final
at the end of
comment.
the day,
My final comment is that the question which raised my brow, the statement that raised my brow was the term compassion.
Right.
He asked you about compassion. Roland has asked you about compassion, and your answers have nothing to do with what compassion means, which means caring,
He does
which means
care.
being concerned. But I mean, you're saying that you're saying that rhetorically, and I think he does care about his agenda.
Right.
He's a care about
No.
he cares about following through with what he says he's going to do for the white nationalist agenda.
Not for
but
white
when it comes
nationalist
to
agenda.
caring about human beings, he's not caring. And I want to close this. I want to be redundant.
He does care
You
about
have
human
not
beings.
responded to the question about compassion. You talked about follow through. Trump said he's going to get the wall up. So he's going to get the wall up any way he can, by any means necessary. But that has nothing to do with the phrase
CJ,
compassion.
I'm gonna give you your last word before I go to my next
Yes.
story. But you're gonna have to define me how he compassionate. I mean, I need to
president-
see
Go ask
something
again.
tangible. I need to see
the
something that's
president
real.
understands the fact as a leader he's going to make tough decisions. He is not oblivious of the fact that, guess what, there are 800,000 people that he is commander-in-chief of that are furloughed. He is not oblivious to that, and the people that advise him recognize that. But at the end of the
Stephen
day,
Miller damn sure don't.
he ran on the fact, I want a border wall, and he's also said to the Democrats, let's do a deal on DACA.
He
And
ran on I want a border wall, and for 2 years,
2 years.
he had a Republican-controlled House, a Republican-controlled Senate, it had the White House, and they did nothing. They had the votes to get it done. They didn't have to ask ask Democrats to get it done. They did nothing. N-O-T-H-I-N-G. All caps, boldface, italicized, underlined. And if you couldn't do a damn thing when you had the power, well then, don't come whining now.
Because
Speaking
at the
of power,
end, then you didn't have enough votes.
Speaking of, you had the votes. You didn't want to act, but you had no guts because you wanted to pass a $1.5 trillion tax cut for the rich, which has also caused the deficit to explode. That's what you were more concerned about. But let me go on to you got opportunity zones when you ain't shown one opportunity yet. All you had was a news conference, and I've been covering it. Let's go to my next story, y'all. We've had several NFL coaches who've been fired this year, a whole lot of them black coaches. And now, of course, you have the Arizona Cardinals hiring Cliff Kingsbury, who was fired by Texas Tech after going 35-40. Now, look, he's a brilliant offensive mind. He was an offensive coordinator at Texas A&M under Kevin Sumlin. Did a great job, but I'm just trying to figure out, is that what happens when you get fired on the college level and then you get one of 32 most prominent jobs in all of sports? Last night, Dallas TV anchor Dale Hansen of WFAA-TV had this spot-on commentary. Check it out. Okay, I have no understanding what's going on with the technical issue. So what we'll do is, instead of seeing the commentary, let's just go ahead and talk to Dale Hansen himself. Yeah. Dale, how you doing?
I'm doing fine, sir. I'm doing fine.
All right. Well, haven't seen you in some time since we on a golf course there in Dallas, but good to talk to. First of all, look, now they tell me we had a commentary. Lord Jesus. Oh, okay, so y'all play the commentary, then I'm coming back to Dale.
Been a lot of criticism of the Arizona Cardinals hiring Cliff Kingsbury as their new coach. Even my guys Mike and Jonah have been questioning that hire. But Kingsbury fits all the criteria to be a head coach in the NFL. He's an offensive genius, he's young, and he's white. And not necessarily in that order. There have been 6 new coaches hired so far, all white, and 2 coaches of color they are replacing. Stephen Wilkes, fired in Arizona after just 1 year. Vance Joseph in Denver after just 2. But Cowboys coach Jason Garrett is in his 9th year, apparently because he wins so much. A lot of people don't understand how Kingsbury can have a losing record at Texas Tech, no NFL experience, and get one of the 32 NFL jobs. But getting fired at Tech doesn't eliminate him from moving up, at least it doesn't to me. I've had 11 jobs in my life, been fired from 8 of them, and moved up every time. And I am arrogant enough to tell you, I think Channel 8 was right to give me another chance. But I am the product of white privilege in America, and I've never denied that I wasn't either. If they made a poster, my picture should be on it. Getting fired at one place and getting another chance isn't the problem. But young, talented coaches of color not getting the chance, that's a huge problem. The covert racism of the NFL ownership group was so bad, the NFL had to make a rule so that minority coaches could at least get an interview. Cowboys secondary coach Chris Richard has been interviewed, and there are reports saying he might get the Miami job. After what he's done with this Cowboys defense, how could he not? Unless it is true, what black parents have been telling their children for decades now, you have to be twice as good to go half as far. I dream of the day when those parents are wrong, because now they're not.
All right, joining us right now is Dale Hansen. And Dale, here's what's stunning to me. What's stunning to me is black coaches are told, go through the system, pay your dues, be a DB coach, be a line coach, and then all of a sudden, get a head coaching job, go to a Division I school, hopefully get one of those jobs and work your way up. And this is, and again, Cliff Kingsbury, nice guy, but there's no way in the world on his resume that the guy has earned to be an NFL head coach.
No, he hasn't. I like Cliff Kingsbury. I've talked to him several times, and I do think he is one of those young offensive geniuses that the NFL wants. But there's just no question. My argument is not against Cliff Kingsbury per se. It's against the opportunities that he gets, and so many talented young coaches of color do not get the opportunity. I mean, I do think the Chris Richard situation will be a good test. What Chris Richard has done with the Seattle Seahawks and then coming to Dallas and what he's done with this defense and being in a position of such a high profile with the Dallas Cowboys, if he can't parlay that into a head coaching job at the NFL, and yet Cliff Kingsbury can, then I think we've identified the problem.
Well, same as Eric Bieniemy. I mean, here's a guy who's an offensive coordinator and has done a hell of a job and has paid his dues over a significant period of time. Then also, here's the other issue, because the thing trickles down, that a Kingsbury, or let's say Art Briles' son, who's a hot offensive coordinator who now's at Florida State. Well, guess what? Same thing. Charlie Wise's son gets to become an offensive coordinator. I think he's barely 24 years old. And so I always say, well, show me the black guy who's 24 or 25 or 27 who's a brilliant offensive mind, and that also happens. So you have black coaches who don't even get the offensive coordinator jobs in college to even get in position to be a head coach in the college level, and then you can't get on the pro level.
Well, this has always been the argument, and I do think it's what President Bush first said. It is the soft bigotry of lower expectations, and I think we see that all the way through. I asked former Cowboys coach Tom Landry this years ago as to why there wasn't any black quarterbacks in the NFL, and his answer was that there aren't any black quarterbacks in college. There aren't, at that time, not many black quarterbacks in college because there weren't many black quarterbacks in high school. And when there was a quarterback who played in college, when they went to the NFL, they are almost always pushed to play wide receiver, to play cornerback or safety. I think there is this soft bigotry of low expectations that has permeated the entire system for a long time. We're starting to see it change. But if you don't give a coach an opportunity to be an offensive or a defensive coordinator, if you don't give that coach an opportunity to be a head coach at the college level, how are they supposed to go become an NFL head coach? And yet I've heard people today actually make that argument that if they want to be a coach, they have to become a coordinator. If they want to be a coach, they have to be successful at the college level. And Cliff Kingsbury, as much as I do like the young man, Cliff Kingsbury breaks all of those rules. He wasn't a coordinator, no NFL experience. His record at Texas Tech, as you pointed out, was a losing record. He never improved his defense to become a winning coach, and he jumped straight to one of 32 jobs in America. Well, it's a broken system, and somebody needs to fix it.
Well, and also, and again, people criticize Colin Kaepernick and others for protesting police brutality, but the reason they even have the Rooney Rule is because they were threatened with a lawsuit from the late Johnny Cochran and other attorneys. I was also talking to an NFL writer, Dale. This is what he told me. He said, in the history of the NFL, there has never been a club president who's African American.
I'm sure there has.
Not a single one.
We're doing a follow-up on this, or at least we will be in the next couple of days, because of just what the issue has become. How many black general managers do you have in the NFL?
There you go.
Ozzie Newsome in Baltimore. There might be one or two others. How many black coordinators do you have in the NFL? Not many. And this is in a sport that is dominated by the young black athlete. I mean, the black athlete makes up about 70% of the NFL rosters. And yet, for some reason, they just can't seem to find the young or even the old black head coach who can motivate and lead a football team that is 70% of color. And I think there again, it is simply the covert racism of the ownership that has been in place for such a long time. And when you see it repeated over and over and over, with coaches not only being given opportunities that a coach of color can't get, and then you see coaches who have failed at the NFL level and get 2 and 3 opportunities to try it again, and yet there is no young coach of color that might have deserved an opportunity. It's not right. I mean, the bottom line, I think we all know that it's not right. I do think it's getting better. I do think it will change. The reality is it just won't change fast enough in my lifetime.
Well, I'll tell you what, it is interesting that a Kingsbury served under Kevin Sumlin at Texas A&M. Sumlin, very much a winning record at the University of Houston, very much a winning record at my alma mater, Texas A&M, and he's now at University of Arizona with the Arizona Wildcats, but the guy who coached under him is the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals.
There's a lot of those examples. I mean, there are a lot of them, as you well know, and I don't know how we break this cycle, but I mean, it is, and it's true in all of society. When you mention there are no black presidents, the presidents, let's assume for the moment, are doing the hiring. They tend to hire people who look like them.
Yep.
And it's true in every aspect of society. And that's why we need to break this down, to level the playing field. I don't think anyone is asking for more than what they're entitled to, and that is simply an opportunity, a chance to compete. That's all anybody really wants. And I think we need to figure out a way to do that.
As James Brown said, what's the line, Greg?
I don't want nothing.
I don't want nothing. Just open the door, and I'll get it myself.
All
right, Dale Hanson, keep calling them out. We appreciate it, man. Thanks a lot. Tell everybody in Dallas what's up.
That's right, bro.
We'll do, Roland. Thank you.
All right, take care. Go ahead, Cleo.
Y'all can argue I want to, but
We will.
Let's look at this from a racial behavioral perspective. The people with the athletic prowess in most of these sports are black. They outshine everybody else in terms of their capacity to get on these fields and do their thing. White people have to have relevance too. Since they can't have the same level of racial relevance and capacity as most of these brothers who are and sisters when it comes to tennis and other means of sports, if they can't do that, they got to be the ones in control, or else they can't handle the whole situation. Did that make any sense to anybody? Did I lose somebody?
As the plantation leader.
Yes,
exactly. The NFL is a plantation.
Exactly.
I haven't watched the snap in 2 years, and I don't plan on watching.
I haven't watched it in a long
White college football is a plantation.
Absolutely.
Watch this. The Rooney Rule, named for Rooney, owner of the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is important. When Dale mentioned Tom Landry, one of the quarterbacks he didn't have to compete against was Jefferson Street Joe Gillum.
There you go.
Who led the Pittsburgh Steelers to a 4-0 record before they gave the job to an affirmative action candidate out of Louisiana named Terry Bradshaw. Joe Gillum was developed by his father, one of the great offensive minds of HBCU football, Joe Gillum Sr. The NFL coaches in the summertime used to go to the HBCUs and pick the brains of the black college brain trust at the HBCU level. Where am I going with this? Very quickly.
Coach at Florida A&M.
FAMU.
FAMU.
Grambling,
Eddie Robinson.
They lived on the sidelines in the summertime. This is what happens. The labor of the NFL and white plantation college football is black. They also put on their staffs black men to pick their brains, offensive minds who are backfield coaches, who are line coaches. So they have the brothers there to keep it. And then as you get closer to the top of the plantation, just like on a plantation, the guy with the whip, the overseer, the coordinators are white, and the owner of the plantation hires the plantation overseer who is the head coach. What am I saying with this? There are plenty of black coaches. They pick their brains for, look on those NFL staffs and look at who are closest to the labor, and that's where you find the genius. But they would never be allowed to run it because it's a plantation.
Well, it's because they're geniuses in black that white people say, okay, they got all the prowess, but we got to run this because we have to have relevance.
And this is what, CJ, go ahead.
Oh, I'm hoping, and Dale is correct, but I'm hoping that going to the Super Bowl and the first owners meeting, that the commissioner brings some of the older folks who were around in the league, like a Harold Henderson and others, to come in and say, look, we need to make some changes. This is very prevalent. Everybody's talking about it. And the Rooney Rule needs to be updated. And some other things they need to have a closed-door meeting.
No, here's the deal. First of all,
no, they really do.
What you just described, they've literally done numerous times. What this is, these are, again, I go back to what I said with Dale. There's never been a black club president, which means the highest, Ozzie Newsome with the Baltimore Ravens, who's retiring, that's the highest if you black, the highest you can get, you're going to be a GM. Or you might be head of a player personnel. But you ain't going to be club president because he is owner and is club president. That's what this is all about. And this is about power.
That's right.
It is about economic power
and control.
Because it is about the fact that not only because see, that's also who determines who gets drafted, who gets paid, how they get paid. Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. has said for years, the reason black people have excelled football and basketball and baseball and tennis and golf, he said because the rules are clear, they're transparent, and they're published. He said in basketball, the court is 94 feet long. The length from the free throw line to the rim is the same in an NBA arena, a college stadium, and a high school gym. The three-point line is different on the college and the pro level, same distance. It's 10 feet high, the goal. You get the same timeouts I get, you get 5, I get 5. Now it's time to play ball. The difference is in every other aspect, even in sports off the court. Your court is 85 feet. Mine is 105. Your rim is 7 feet. Mine's 12. And then black people will go back and we'll practice. Follow me.
We will.
We'll say, all right, y'all done moved to go from 10 to 12 feet? All right, cool. I'm going to go back and work out, and I'm going to work my butt off to dunk this damn ball 12 feet.
Yes, sir.
Then when we come back after we worked out, then they like, oh, my bad. It's now 15 feet.
Right.
So then black people got to go, it'll move the damn goal up. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. You know what? Okay. I'm going to go back, and I'm going to train for that 15-foot goal. And then you go bust your butt and train. And then when you come back, they go, oh, we dropped it to 11. So now you overshoot the damn rim. That's the story of black people off the court in sports, in corporate America, in media, in politics, in every avenue. You talked about Trump earlier. That white boy is doing stuff Obama could never do. Why? Because Obama's a brother. Hell, Obama couldn't even wear a damn tan suit. Well, these folks losing their mind.
Couldn't get network.
In America, there's a standard for white men in America, for white women in America, and everybody else is after them. Now go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you a question in terms of if there was a black president of the NFL, what kind of power would he have?
Well, again, though, first of all, even as an NFL commissioner, the commissioner works for the owners.
Okay.
That's the problem. So the commissioner has power.
Okay.
He has leverage. No, let me correct that. The commissioner has leverage. The commissioner has influence. Owners got power. He works for them. The problem with the NFL is ain't nobody black in the room. Because when the 32 get together, you've never had a black NFL owner. So you don't have somebody black. See, it's just like when you have a board of directors. You used to have a whole bunch of all white dudes. And all of a sudden, black folks got on boards. Well, then the white folks on the board couldn't say the same stuff they used to say because you had somebody going like, hey, hell up. It's true. Hopefully you had a brother who would say that because you got some who are not conscious. Right. But the reality is, when black folks have had a seat at the table, we've been able, as Thurgood Marshall said, we've been able to bring all of our blackness to bear. Right. So the conversation now changes because we're here. For the NFL, when the owners go into a meeting, Goodell got to lead a room. He's staff.
But Roland, how many black athletic superstars in the NFL during their period of play or even after their period of play has raised the issues that you raised?
Oh, a number. A number. But here's the problem. Here's the problem. Again, there's a difference between influence, leverage, and power. So let me just use Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan is called the greatest basketball player of all time. Michael Jordan used to get pissed off with Jerry Krause and Jerry Reinsdorf in Chicago. Reinsdorf was sensitive to Michael Jordan's criticism, but he let him know, I'm the owner and Jerry Krause is the GM. So what happened when Michael Jordan came to D.C.? Abe Pollan owned the team. They sucked. They had never made money in their whole damn existence. Michael, how he walked and talked and how he rolled, ticked off Abe Pollan. In fact, when Michael was a player, when they had a strike, Michael lashed out at Abe Pollan and said, damn it, if you can't make money with the team, sell it. Abe never forgot.
Nope.
So Michael stops being in management. Michael, all of a sudden, goes back and play. Arena sells out. The Washington Wizards, from Bullets to the Wizards, made money for the first time ever.
Wow.
Michael says, I'm done playing. Michael says, I'm going back and get my job. Michael walks into the meeting with Ted Leonis.
Come on, brother.
Who's now the owner of the Washington Wizards. Ted Leonis to his right, Michael Jordan sitting right here. They sit across from Abe Pollin, and Michael says, I'm ready to come back to be head of the club. Now, Michael, we go another direction. We appreciate all your contributions.
Yep.
And in fact, Michael, here's a check for $10 million, and we thank you for all that you've done.
Remember the article, Roland?
Michael Jordan
sped out.
Michael Jordan sat there.
Come on,
Michael Jordan sat there. Was like, whoa, hold up. I'm Michael damn Jordan. I got 6 rings. Abe Pollin said, thank you very much. We go another direction. Michael Jordan walked out of the room, left the $10 million check on the table.
Come on, brother.
Bolted out of the stadium, got in his Jaguar, top down, sped off the lot, mad as hell.
Mad as hell.
Abe Pollin taught Michael Jordan ass a lesson.
Sure did.
You might be a player, and you might be the greatest of all time. You got leverage. You got influence. My ass on the team, I got power. Why do you think Michael
drove away? What did he do?
Michael was pissed off. Right. You know what he did? No. You know what he did? He went to North Carolina and went to Chicago, and he said, I'm buying my ass an NBA team. He got close to owning the Milwaukee Bucks, and then Herb Cole decided to say, I'm going to keep owning the team. And then when Bob Johnson screwed the Charlotte franchise up, Michael came in, became the owner. That's the difference.
Yes.
Power is about who owns.
I get it.
And that's why they're called owners in the NFL.
I get it.
So individuals have influence, as you say. Kurt Flood did the same thing. No free agent in every free agent in professional sports need to know Kurt Flood's name when he bucked the St. Louis Cardinals and created modern free agency.
And very few of the current players went to his funeral.
That's exactly right. Did not. Let me ask you a question. Well, I mean, they don't. This is where the ignorance of history is a burden. The labor is black and brown. What would happen if they exercise collective power? I'm thinking about Eric Reed, who's been drug tested a billion times, and the union didn't say it.
I agree.
I'm just asking.
I agree with collective, but again, if you want to use your slavery analogy, this is how the system is set up. First of all, the NFL, out of all professional leagues, has the shortest career span. Okay? Shortest out of baseball and NBA. Yeah. Shortest. Okay? Second of all, it's the only one out of the top professional leagues that does not have guaranteed contracts. Third, it's the one that has the most severe injuries long term.
That's true.
And so if the average NFL career is only 3.5 years, you are not going to sacrifice one of those years.
Get your money.
But again, it is
That's it. But here's the deal. And they know that.
That's right.
And here's the other piece. What they'll do is they'll say, okay, say something. Your ass play special teams. I'm going to cut you. They also, Colin Kaepernick was one of those top. So again, same Colin Kaepernick. They did, no, we're going to teach your ass a lesson. Okay? Colin Kaepernick is being whiteballed. He's being taught a lesson. That is a my name is Kunta. No, you're going to say Toby moment.
Yes, indeed.
They want Colin Kaepernick to say Toby, which is why when he had his deposition with the Houston Texans and the late owner Bob McNair, he wore his Kunta Kinte shirt to the deposition. That's what's going on. This is a power thing. Yes. So as long as no black person is ever sitting in an owner's box, you're not going to have anybody in those meetings checking all white owners. That's the reality of the NFL.
Well, the slavery metaphor that he uses is just, unfortunately, extremely perfect.
Which is why Bill Rhoton wrote the book, $40 Million Slaves.
Yeah.
Well, CJ, final comment before I deal with white supremacy in your party and the House, but go right ahead.
It is my hope when they do have the owners meeting that those African Americans who are minority owners of some of these teams participate in the owners meeting and have a very
They can't. They're not owners.
But have a frank conversation. So whether that's Venus and Serena Williams that have minority
Miami Dolphins, you got Kirby John Caldwell, who's a minority owner with the Houston Texans. You got very few African, right.
These people are not compassionate.
And they are compassionate.
Well, again, you got people there, but I'm just saying you got folks there. But the problem exists in terms of really, again, it all boils down to power. All right, speaking of power, y'all, there are 435 members of the United States House of Representatives. Okay, the U.S. House is supposed to represent the people. There are 100 United States senators. Now, we have lived through a nation. First of all, this year in August, we will commemorate 400 years of people of African descent being in America when the first 20-odd Africans arrived in Virginia in 1619. That will happen this August. But what happens when in same year, 2019, and an avowed white nationalist, white supremacist, is sitting right there in the United States House of Representatives, and the Republicans don't say a damn thing? Today, the New York Times had an article, folks. In that article, it was the headline of their article said, before Trump, Steve King, can you see my iPad, please? Before Trump, Steve King set the agenda for the wall and anti-immigrant policies. Steve King has served in Iowa for the last 9 terms. This is a quote from that very article in today's New York Times. White nationalists, white supremacists, Western civilization. How did that language become offensive? Mr. King said, why did I sit in classes teaching me about the merits of our history in our civilization? Y'all, let me say that again. That's Steve King, who is a member of the United States House of Representatives. Now, as a result of Steve King's comment, he was criticized. This right here is a quote from Justin Amash, who's a member of Congress. Quote, this is an embrace of racism, and it has no place in Congress or anywhere. That's Justin Amash, who is a Republican who hails from he's from Michigan. Okay, now let me go ahead and pull this up because Liz Cheney, who is the daughter of former Vice President Dick Cheney. She is a member of Congress. She is over the House Republican Conference. She hails from Wyoming. This is what she tweeted. These comments are abhorrent and racist and should have no place in our national discourse. Steve King asked how terms white national and white supremacists became offensive. Let me say that again. Liz Cheney, the woman who is criticizing Steve King, is the chair of the House Republican Conference, which means she is in the House Republican leadership. Y'all gonna get that in a second. Now, when you talk about Steve King, this ain't the first time Steve King has said these things. This is Kevin McCarthy, the current Republican leader in the House. This was prior to November election when Steve King was running for office. Quote, we watched a new freshman stand up, use this, no, I'm sorry, this is the comment where he criticized the sister from Detroit who called Trump an MF. Quote, we watched a new freshman stand up, use this language, get cheered by their base, and we watched a brand new speaker say nothing to her. Y'all, let me just real quick here. Let me just go to my iPad since we on the air, and let me go to Kevin McCarthy's Twitter feed, and let's see here. I am looking at a tweet he sent out 1 hour ago, nothing about Steve King. 6 hours ago, nothing about Steve King. Okay, I'm sorry, now we at 1 day. So basically, I see nothing from Kevin McCarthy critical of Steve King. Here is Jim Jordan. He is, of course, Republican congressman from Ohio. If you needed any more proof that Democrats are more focused on stopping President Trump than securing the border and helping the country, look no further than Rashida Tlaib's comment, we're going to go in there and impeach you know what. They can't help themselves. Hold on 1 second right there. So since that was Jim Jordan, let me go on back to Twitter right here, and let me just type in Jim Jordan, and let me see if there's anything on Representative Jim Jordan's Twitter feed. Let's see here. I'm looking on here. Here we go to my iPad. Let's see. 37 minutes ago, nothing. Let's see here. 4 hours ago, nothing. 5 hours ago, 5 hours ago, 8 hours ago. No, there's nothing from Jim Jordan. Now let's talk about Mike Huckabee. This is what Mike Huckabee, Governor Mike Huckabee, formerly of Arkansas. You know, Mike Huckabee, Southern Baptist Convention Minister Mike Huckabee, daddy of the current press secretary, Sarah Huckabee. Huckabee Sanders, Mike Huckabee, former Republican presidential candidate. This is what he said, disturbing, anti-Semitic, Palestinian Rashida Tlaib. There's never been a nation called Palestine, erases Israel from map in her office, and on first day on Congresswoman screams obscenities about Donald Trump. Do Dems support this bigotry and hate? While we are here, let me go ahead and go to my iPad and pull this thing up right here. Y'all just bear with me right here. Let's see. Mike Huckabee. You can go ahead and just take the iPad so they can see me typing in Mike Huckabee, just so they know. Governor Mike Huckabee. Let's see here. An hour ago, a Jim Acosta tweet. Let's see. 6 hours ago, Trump at the border. 6 hours ago, fake news. Let's see. 8 hours ago, 10 hours ago, basically nothing about Steve King. Now, Senator Chuck Grassley of Iowa. He's the one who endorsed Steve King before the election. This is what, so Chuck Grassley, he actually endorsed him and talked about how he'd be good for Iowa. Now, he's made racist comments before. Now, after this thing blew up, oh, by the way, hold up. I'm sorry, I didn't pull this up because here's the other issue, y'all. Because let's deal with our mainstream media, because y'all know we talk about this right now, Roland Martin Unfiltered. I was looking at, before we came on the air, I saw a tweet, and she is the media director for Media Matters. Her name is Liz Power. Let me pull up Liz Power. I need to show y'all this so y'all can understand how white supremacy is allowed to continue in 2019. Liz Power sent this tweet out across, and she said, boom, this was 1 hour ago. Liz Power tweeted, I can't find a single mention of Steve King on Fox News, CNN, or MSNBC so far today. How/why is this not a bigger story on cable TV? Let me unpack that, y'all. Here you have a sitting member of Congress, Republican from Iowa, who says, how did white supremacy and white nationalism become a bad thing? And the cable networks, MSNBC, liberal, CNN, Trump loves called liberal fake news, Fox News, no, they weren't going to say a damn thing. They haven't said a word. I do recall Jake Tapper talking about Louis Farrakhan and Keith Ellison.
Of course.
I do recall.
Come on now.
Fox News talking about Keith Ellison and talking about Rashida Tlaib.
Yes.
MSNBC even talked about Rashida Tlaib and her calling Trump, we're going to impeach this MF. But you mean to tell me, in a 24-hour news cycle, not one mention of of what Steve King had to say in the New York Times, not in the Pasadena Times, not in the Toluca Times, but in the New York Times, front page. Now, after all this criticism, y'all, Steve King realized that he had to make a statement. So this is what he put out. Today, the New York Times is suggesting that I am an advocate for white nationalism and white supremacy. Stop. Come back to me. He said the New York Times is suggesting, y'all, the New York Times was quoting him. That was a quote. It wasn't, they didn't imply it. We're not inferring it. It's what his ass said. Let me keep reading. I want to make one thing abundantly clear, because you know there's some white energy behind that. I reject those labels and the evil ideology that they define. Further, I condemn anyone that supports this evil and bigoted ideology, which saw in its ultimate expression the systematic murder of 6 million innocent Jewish lives. Stop!
Wow.
The systematic murder of 6 million innocent Jewish lives. First of all, the Holocaust happened in Germany.
That's right.
Did not happen in America.
That's right.
I'm not excusing that. I'm pointing you the geographic boundaries where it happened. Here is Steve King of Iowa tying this notion of bigotry and bigotry and racism to the Holocaust. Yet Steve King, in the same statement, says nothing about the Holocaust that took place right here in the United States, that created the United States. While you want to mention the 6 million innocent Jewish lives there, you could have mentioned King Leopold and what he did. as the king of Belgium, what he did in the Congo. Oh, but I guess those folks don't count. Let me go back to his statement. This is what he said. It's true that like the founding fathers, I am an advocate for Western civilization's values and that I profoundly believe that America is the greatest tangible expression of these ideals the world has ever seen. Under any fair political definition, I am simply a nationalist. America's values are expressed in our founding documents. They are attainable by everyone, and we take pride that people of all races, religions, and creeds from around the globe aspire to achieve them. I am dedicated to keeping America this way. This conviction does not make me a white nationalist or a white supremacist. Once again, I reject those labels and the ideology that they define. As I told the New York Times, it's not about race. It's never been about race. One of my most strongly held beliefs is that we are all created in God's image and that human life is sacred in all forms. Now, let me go ahead and help y'all out in the very same statement. Did y'all catch that little thing that we saw right there? First of all, in his statement, he talked about the founding fathers, and then he went on, because y'all, I deal in words, okay? And then he said this comment about in our papers. Did y'all catch that? Let me help y'all out. I want to break this down.
Bring that beat back.
I want to break this down. Quote, America's values are expressed in our founding documents. Okay, I'm going to read that again because some of y'all didn't get that. America's values are expressed in our founding documents. Y'all, Steve King is showing you why he's a white supremacist. Because the founding documents of America excluded black people. The founding documents of America excluded women. The founding documents of America were all about white male landowners. The founding documents of America stipulated that members of Congress were to be picked, not voted upon, picked by other leaders. The founding documents of America said all men are created equal. Thomas Jefferson, the very man who then owned slaves and also felt that black people were inferior to white people. Yes, those are the founding documents. The founding documents of America put white supremacy in its very document. The United States Constitution itself is a white supremacist document because a nation was founded as a white nation, a nation for white men. He then criticizes the New York Times, yet in the same article in the New York Times, Steve King makes a comment saying, as he looked across at the Democratic Party, the new members in the House, he said in the same article, look at it, there's no place for white men in their party. But he said, my comment is not about race. So if your comment is not about race, why are you commenting that white men, for the first time, are the majority in the House Democratic caucus? Y'all, here's the real deal. When Steve King talks about Western ideology, what he's saying is we used to be a nation that was all about white men. And damn it, now we got to move the hell over for these Negroes and for these Latinos and Latinas and for the Asians and for the people who are Korean and Japanese and you from the Philippines and you from the Congo and Haiti and Bermuda and Latin America and from other parts of North America and from Haiti and from Africa and all these places. Why can't we go back and just be a nation that was for white folks, that was for white men, where we had all the control and all the power, and we controlled the schools and the government and the economy, and the rest of y'all could just farm the land and work for us and shut the hell up. That is what Steve King wants. But guess who hasn't said a word? GOP chairwoman Romney McDaniel. Quick to criticize Tlaib, ain't said jack as a white supremacist in her party. Kevin McCarthy, nothing. Donald Trump, nothing. Mitch McConnell, nothing. So Republicans always ask, well, I don't understand why black people just feel that way about us. Why they so sometimey? Because y'all ass sometimey. Because you're going to criticize Tlaib for using motherfucker in reference to Trump, but then you say nothing about a motherfucker who's a white supremacist.
Come on, brother.
I need you to explain to me exactly who y'all siding with. Should he be censured? Yes. Ben Shapiro, conservative, wrote an article saying, y'all hold up, that's not quite what he meant. But then Ben Shapiro, in his reflexive nature, because he's been riding with the white supremacist Steve King for all these years, actually had to go back and reread what the hell he said. Then was like, oops, that was an update on my article. He then says he needs to be censured and he needs to be primaried in 2020. Why am I saying all of this? Because the 2019 Republican Party has essentially said, we welcome with open arms a white supremacist like Steve King. We welcome with open arms for him to be in our party. Matter of fact, we will sit and hold him and cherish his vote as long as he votes our way. He is still on his committees. They've said nothing. And the media has been complicit because they refuse to say anything about Steve King. You know why? Because, see,
they agree.
We just going to let that thing just slide. Because part of the problem is when you look in mainstream media in the executive suites, they look like the very country Steve King longs for. White men running everything. What y'all need to understand that this is the modern day Republican Party. And when Dinesh D'Souza sat in this studio and tried to talk about how Democrats were racist, and they were, I had to remind him, so were Republicans, and so were the Whigs and everybody else, because the reality is America was founded on a basis of white supremacy. That's what the fear is. Earlier, CJ talked about this wall. Why has Steve King talked about a wall? Why is Trump talking about a wall? I keep telling y'all, because they are scared of people of color. The reason the federal government is shut down right now is because of the wall. Because you know who is on the other side of the wall? People that don't look like Steve King. And the people who Steve King represent in Iowa are scared to death because they're like, my God, this used to be our country. When Steve King goes on Tucker Carlson and he's decrying, oh my goodness, what's going on? What happened to our values and our Western ideology? What he is saying is, what has happened? It used to be white people running everything. It's not our fault y'all stopped having kids. It's not our fault that in 10 states in America in the next 5 years, the white annual death rate is going to be higher than the white annual birth rate. And guess what? If every white person in America starts trying to pop out babies right now, y'all still won't be able to catch up. Nope. Here's the reality. We ain't going back. Y'all got to suck this thing up. In 25 years, by 2043, America's going to be a nation, majority people of color. And guys like Steve King, it's going to be tough for them. It's already tough for them because they just got to see all this blackness and all this brownness, and they don't know what to do. Because you're going to have to deal with the reality that Cortez and Ayanna Pressley, and Lauren Underwood, and all these brothers and sisters who not white men, they're not going to be like Toby. They're not going to bow down. They're not going to bend over. They're not going to pick cotton. They're not going to be sharecroppers. They're not going to say yes, massa, no, massa. They're not going to get off the sidewalk when you walk by. They're not going to give up their seat. Steve King, you are an avowed racist. You are a white supremacist. And as long as the Republican Party allows for you to be there in good standing, the Republican Party in the United States and every person who calls themselves a Republican, who says nothing, who doesn't call for him to be censured, who doesn't call for him to be condemned, you are agreeing with white supremacy. It's as simple as that. So all my black Republican friends, CJ, all of y'all, I just wonder if y'all gonna say anything. If y'all gonna call out the chairman on the party who said nothing, or your dear leader, the compassionate one, Donald Trump.
He is compassionate.
The reality is this. Steve King will not change. He will be who he is. Simple as that. Any comments from the panel?
Well, I can say that the governor has said that she was not endorsing him for the primary.
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. First of all, I read that story, and in that story, she said nothing about his present comments. She actually was referring. She said, first of all, I'm not endorsing. She said, I'm going to be neutral. But she specifically, she did not condemn these comments. Anything else?
Bottom line is, he will not probably win in 2020.
No. We're not talking about 2020. We're talking about 2019. Right now, he is a member. No.
I understand that
we
he is a
ain't
member.
jumping to the next Congress.
And I'm
We're dealing with 116.
What I'm saying. He will not be a member. He will probably lose his primary in 2020.
We're not talking about 2020, CJ. I'm talking about January 2019.
I can hear.
So all this talk like he might lose.
Allow me to finish.
They said he might lose in November this year.
Allow me to finish.
What's next?
He will be primaried.
You still talking about 2020? Can you stick with January 2019?
I can stick with January, and I can stick with right now.
Well, come on.
Finish. He will be primaried. But in the interim, he should be censured, and also the Democratic member as well. But there needs to be...
Oh, here we go. The Democratic member should be censored, but not the white supremacists.
I said they both should.
Impeach the motherfucker. This is the point with Rashida Tlaib. You see he put creature quotes under Palestinian? Did you see what this white supremacist did? Mm-hmm. This isn't even really about Steve King. Steve King, as Roland has said, is a litmus test of white supremacy. He says, drop white nationalists. I'm just a nationalist. When you drop white, you know what you do? You make it invisible. And the power of whiteness
I don't agree
is... No. It's not a question of agreement and disagreement. Let's not even talk about it.
And all this stuff he gonna lose next year, that man, Steve King, endorsed a white supremacist in Canada before the November election.
Right.
He endorsed a white supremacist in Europe, and the white folks, the good white folks in Iowa still elected him.
And at the end of the day...
Greg, go ahead, then Cleo.
Very quickly. When you drop white in front of nationalists and just say nationalists, white is implied. The largest act of genocide in this country was the destruction of millions of Native Americans. 2 Native Americans joined the United States Congress. Roland is right.
And abortion.
They are terrified. You know why they're terrified? It's over, baby. And any Negro running with these white supremacists is a servant of them.
Cleo, then Deron.
This would come up like this at the end of the show. But you mentioned earlier, Roland, that, and I already knew this, that what I call the white supremacist mainstream press has not covered this.
At all.
In previous shows, you had a guest on here who talked about, and I forgot the specifics about the stats, but we are heavy TV watchers, black folks. So we sit here...
Like MSNBC, their ratings are up because they have the highest black viewership of any cable network out there. Go ahead.
My point is that, and I do a lot of work around the country interviewing parents and talking to children and college students about their critical thinking capacity and that they have a critical analysis about the society they live in, and frankly, most of them don't. They know about Beyonce and some other stuff, but they don't have a critical analysis. They don't recognize, for example, that there's no such thing as a reliable love story between 2 black people on TV.
Got it.
So my point is, which we don't have time to get into, is that I'm not sure about all of this stuff about whiteness is being dismantled and it's going to be taken over. Because you got to remember that South Africa...
No. I didn't say it was going to be taken over. It's going to be dismantled. What I said is, what is scaring them to death or the demographic change.
Sure, I know what you're saying.
The power dynamic, and that's the issue, which why I keep saying to black folks, we better be on top of our game, because I don't want us looking like South Africa, where black folks got the power, but don't control, got the political power, but don't control the money and the other economic systems. Gotcha.
That's my concern. I didn't finish, but I'm going to try to do this. We don't got time. The bottom line is I'm concerned about that, because we need to have a show that talks about parents giving their children a critical analysis, getting them prepared to live in a society and prepared to have power.
Right.
And not as an accident, but as an intentional, purposeful life.
Oh, yes.
Because we're being trained, our kids are being trained every day through school systems, media systems to be anti-black. Yeah. And there's a lot of anti-blackness in this society. One of the reasons in South Africa why white folks insisted on the children learning Afrikaans, because they knew that had a linguistic impact on their worldview, and that they would unconsciously agree with white supremacy. And it's a lot of black people who find white devils compassionate because they don't have a clear critical analysis of the evil of white supremacy. If we don't have that analysis, we're going to be out we're going to outnumber them.
Gotcha.
But they still going to be running things.
The run.
You understand what I'm saying? Absolutely. We got to talk about that, or else we're going to sit here be dark-skinned white supremacists.
Deron.
You laid out this entire show, you laid out some of the most concrete arguments ever. I'm glad I was here.
Logic.
Because it was logic. And I realized, and that's why I'm doing this furlough event tomorrow, feeding families.
That's right.
Because what you're saying, what you just said, is that it's not going to end.
Nope.
And we're at war. And we decided if I can just say, we're going to feed families, give them haircuts and everything. We're going to feed families. We're going to give them haircuts. We're going to do it at Athletic Republic in Forestville, and we're going to shut down the gas station. And when I say shut down the gas station, we're going to pump every gallon of gas out in the cars tomorrow on 111. Because a week ago, I was watching this, looking at this stuff, and realized this ain't going to end.
No.
And what you're saying just changed my paradigm. Wow. When you said, and I understood this, but when you say, and that's why I was not trying to label my system, I said, but this is miseducation. Because you cannot say the word compassion. And my people are hungry and crying, and they are out begging on the streets in Prince George's County, one of the richest counties in the world, for food.
And I understand that.
And this is
but it is
compassion.
And this is why.
That's all I believe.
And this is why. The reason I'm laying all this out as well, and I've done this in my speeches. We talk about the whole issue of anti-black. That has been a part of my speeches for the last several years, because where we are going, this thing ain't about 2020. This ain't about Steve King in 2020. This ain't about the re-election of Trump in 2020. I've been saying this since 2009, that this white fear, this anxiety, it's ain't about economic. Trump was elected because he pushed the buttons of white fear.
That's right.
That's what he did. That's why he won 53% of white women. That's why he won college-educated whites, because he was pushing the buttons, because what is so deeply embedded, and I'll dare say this, is some white folks who don't even realize it. They're just like, oh, no, that's just not me. No. But he pressed the right buttons, and this is all about where 2043 and 2045 and 2050, because America, since its founding and before its founding, was a nation that was constructed for white people coming from Europe, coming to a foreign land, destroying the native folks who were already here to establish their own homeland that was about whiteness. And the problem now, the demographic numbers have changed so dramatically that they looked up and said, oh my God, with the election of Obama, damn, that thing is now real. And so now so what happened? Trump comes along, Stephen Miller, that racist, is right behind him. The same Stephen Miller, where Richard Spencer, the white supremacist, said he was my mentor at Duke University. Don't think that ain't combined. He comes along and is like, no, we're going to keep y'all out. Hey, can y'all send them Haitians back, them shithole countries? Can we stop the immigration from these African countries? Why does Paul Ryan try to get several thousand visas for folks from his native Ireland to come in before he leaves as Speaker of the House? Because they like, how can we import as many white people as we possibly can? Because these people of color are going to be taking this thing over, and we have controlled this since we were founded, and what in the hell are we going to do? And like I said to the white supremacist Richard Spencer, and I even had, I mean, real quick, I even had some Negroes try to tell me, you were scared to call yourself a black man when you debated Richard Spencer. Well, first of all, those of you who don't even know how to debate, I knew exactly what he was trying to establish, and so he wanted me to say I'm a black man, but I totally jacked him up when I said no, I'm a man. Because, see, he wanted to say, I'm a white man, I'm a black man. No, I want to let him know I'm a man. Because it threw his whole argument off. But y'all who don't know how to debate, some of y'all simpletons, y'all didn't understand that. But I told Richard Spencer, I said, you better go work out. Because we ain't going nowhere. and y'all gonna have a fight on your hands. And that's what this is about. I just got a text. So this is what Kevin McCarthy has finally commented. Quote, Steve's language is reckless, wrong, and has no place in our society. That's what Kevin McCarthy said. And now, now, which king is this?
I'm gonna talk to my friend.
Oh, and now Steve King is now issued his second statement. He might have as many statements as Kevin Hart. His second statement is, I reject white nationalism. I reject white supremacy. It's not part of any of my ideology. I reject anyone who carries that ideology. Well, then you got to explain to me why you endorsed the white suprecists in Canada last year. Why you endorsed the white nationalists last year. See, I'm just gonna just let y'all know.
Get him, bro, the real
I'm just gonna.
He watching this show, right?
I'm just gonna let you know. You can't have fleas all over your body and then say I wasn't sleeping with a dog. You can't. You can't have a established record of being a white supremacist and rolling with white supremacists and kicking it with white nationalists and hanging with them and talking with them and eating with them and sleeping with them and saying that's my boy, that's my girl, and then say, oh, I reject all of it.
You don't reject that.
No, boo. No. That ain't gonna work.
No.
Because, see, I done told y'all white supremacists this. Come on. I have told y'all white supremacists. And I'm real clear. I'm the reason y'all didn't want our ancestors to know how to read.
Come on.
Because when we know how to read, we can read your bullshit.
That's right.
And you been read, Steve King. And I'm just going to wait to see how many black Republicans have some guts to call out their own party for being quiet. I'm just going to wait for Liz Cheney or Justin Amash or Kevin McCarthy to be the first to call for him to be censured, not along with Rashida Tlaib.
Right.
On his own, because Steve King was a white supremacist before she was elected. He was a white supremacist long before she even thought she was going to run for office, because he'd been there 18 years. And he'd been a white supremacist the whole time. Folks, I was supposed to show you our HBCU story of Virginia State. I'm going to run that tomorrow. Also, our package with the sister who's the first black and the first woman president for Democracy for America PAC. I'm going to run both of those on tomorrow's show. This is why we also need you to support Roland Martin Unfiltered. I told y'all what Media Matter said. No cable network touched the Steve King story. This is why this show matters. We're able to break down our stories and break down our perspective. And so I want you to go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com, join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to join our fan club goes to support this show, to make this possible. I appreciate we have more than 1,100 folks who are on YouTube right now. So y'all, it builds up. Y'all gonna make me go to a second hour because he's like, y'all slow coming to the show. But here's the deal. If y'all want a second hour, you got to also give to make this thing happen. I'm just letting y'all know. Same thing in church. All right, got to pay for these damn lights, pay for everything else. So go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com to join our Bring the Funk fan club. We got Cash App, we got PayPal, we have Square as well. All forms to pay. We appreciate that. And then, of course, on the Friday show, we're going to actually have the video of all of our donors who've given so far to make this show possible. And so we want you to become a donor. So don't just sit there and soak all this up and say, oh, man, the knowledge was great. Guess what? You got to fund your freedom and not hope somebody else funds your freedom. And then all of a sudden when our shows get canceled, like News One Now did, y'all go, what happened? Because we don't fund our own freedom. Deron, CJ, Cleo, Greg, always a pleasure. I appreciate it. Thanks a bunch, folks. If you want to see the repeat of this show, we're going to be on YouTube.com. And the reason I want y'all to go to YouTube, I'm just be real clear, okay? Y'all kill the music for a second. Real clear, okay? Periscope, we don't make no money, okay? Facebook, they ad program is horrible. We make more money when we show our show on YouTube. That's why I want y'all to watch youtube.com/Roland S. Martin. Become a subscriber, click your live notification. When you watch our clips and our repeats, watch them on YouTube. I do the first run on all 3 platforms. But until they're able to generate more money for us, if we get more money from YouTube, that's where I want y'all to go as well. It also makes all of this possible. So please do that. All right, folks, y'all have an absolute great one. I got to go. Black Brilliance. That's what the last hour and a half has been. Holla! You want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered? YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. See that name right there? Roland Martin Unfiltered. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications so when we go live, you'll know it.